Good morning. Yeah, I do. I make my living playing music, and yet I have no music on my on my 3D channel. Oh, good morning, Joe. How are you? We'll give it a few minutes and let some people have a chance to show up. I did tweet out a link to this just a couple minutes ago. Hopefully, the tweet finds some people and they come by. Um, I was talking last night. Yeah, it is irony. Music guy, no music. Yeah, I need to, and I know YouTube has some royalty free stuff that you can use on your streams, and I need to just go through, listen to some of it, and then learn how to add it to OBS. New family schedule today. Camera centered up a little bit better, just a little bit. I still, well, I want to keep the printers in the background though, even though they're not doing anything. Just in case somebody comes by and I can say, well, there is 3D printers. There is occasionally 3D printing. Just I'm not doing any today. Good morning, Glenn. Glad you could make it this morning. So, I was talking last night on the drive home from work, I guess around midnight last night, with uh, with Ben Craig and 3D Medic Vince and Ron from Canadian Maker Project. They were all on Discord last night when I got off work, and so I was talking to them on the drive home, and they said they pretty much all echoed the same sentiment that they have Blender downloaded and installed on their machine, but they've tried to use it before and they can't get the hang of it, and that they've tried watching tutorials, but the tutorials, you know, end up talking over their head a lot, so it doesn't make sense. And so I said, you know what? Maybe that needs to be the topic for today's stream. The topic for today's stream is going to be let's do some of the basics. Let's do the easy stuff, the stuff that you're going to really use um, day in and day out every time you're designing something, because these are the same functions that I find myself using continuously. Good morning, 3D Medic Vince. I was just talking about our conversation last night on Discord about what created the topic for this stream. So I'm going to start with a new project on Blender, and maybe not so much build something today as just kind of showcase the basic moves that you will use time and time again, just repeatedly, because it's while Blender can do a million things, there's 10 things that I do on a regular basis that just none of my models would exist without me using these fairly simple, easy to learn processes. And if I can teach you guys these same things, all these little basic moves, then there really is no reason that you can't, if you can visualize something, if you can sketch it out on paper or whatever, and get a good visual for it, that you can't do it yourself. Yeah, I loved the stream you guys sitting in for Walter last night. I wish I could have hung around for more of it. But when I pulled up the stream last night and saw Xander sitting there with the goatee that he was playing with and the Gators hat and glasses, I about died. It was hilarious. Okay, cool. All right, Joe. Well, you know, that's what my aim today is going to be. So we will start a new project, and I will just go through some of the basic procedures that I use all the time. And I guess we've given some of the people, the slackers, like 5 minutes to get here. So looks like we're going to go ahead and get started without them. But I plan to use some of these same procedures over and over while we're doing this morning and explain and just what I'm doing step by step. So let's go ahead and go to the screen share. And then let me get my chat back up here where I can see it because it's too small on my screen trying to read it in OBS. So get it up over here on this monitor so I can see it. Stretch it out a little bit so I can go back a little farther in the comments. So now, if I don't pay close attention to the comments, I'm sorry. I will do my best to do so. Sometimes I get caught up in what I'm doing over on the screen and stop looking back at this screen. So every time you open Blender and you start a new project, this is the screen you're faced with. You're faced with a cube sitting in the middle of a grid. The grid is your build area, if you will. It's your space you're going to be creating in. Now, the first things I'm going to recommend, if you are new to Blender, if you just installed it, or you know, Blender can be kind of funky to get used to in its stock configuration because for some reason Blender seems to it inverts the mouse buttons from what you think the mouse buttons should do. So I'm going to show you how to fix that first thing, because for me, when I started trying to learn Blender, that was the thing that frustrated me the most. Was I was left clicking to select something just like I would, you know, expect to do, and left clicking just moved 3D cursor and didn't click on anything. So the first thing that I suggest doing when you install Blender is you go up to File, you go down to User Preferences, or you can hit Control-Alt-U. Either way, get you into User Preferences. Go to User Preferences, and then you're going to look for, oh, hold on. Go to Interface here. I'm sorry, not Interface, Input. Input. I'm not awake yet. Okay, you go to Input, and right here on Input on the left-hand side, you got Presets, Mouse, Select With, and I've already got mine changed, but when you first bring it up, Select With is going to be set to right. I don't like that. So Select With Left. Save User Settings. Now, while still under User Settings, again, if you haven't done so yet, there are a couple things I'm going to suggest, and that is to go to Add-Ons. And there are a few add-ons, and I've already got them installed, so it's not going to go through the install process for me, but I'll still give you guys since we're doing this for 3D printing, the first thing I suggest you install, just type in 3D print in the search box up here, and you'll see Mesh 3D Print Toolbox. That is an absolute necessity for designing stuff for 3D print in Blender, in my opinion, because it will run a test on your model as you're making stuff. You can click to check your model for overlapping faces, for bad contiguous edges, but the most important thing is for non-manifold edges, because non-manifold edges will not print. I'm sure most of you know that, because most of the slicers will tell you if a model's not manifold. but you can check it while you're modeling it and try to repair it. Yes, so when you're in Blender User Preferences, you click on the Add-ons tab up here, and then in the search box just type 3D Print, and you will see this come up, and there's a little check box. Check the box and click Save, and it will add it to your user interface. It's possible you may have to restart Blender after, but let's wait and get a couple more add-ons installed before we do that. So 3D Print Toolbox, necessary add-on. Another one I'm going to suggest, type in the word measure in the search box. You'll find it. It's under 3D View, Measure It. The Measure It tool will allow you to take measurements on your mesh so that you can line everything, line everything up, and if you're sitting there with your calipers and you're trying to design a part and you're going, okay, well, I need it to be 30 millimeters wide, then you'll be able to measure your final part and make sure it's 30 millimeters wide. So Measure It is the second add-on that I suggest having, and it's very useful. And then third is Bool Tools, because Boolean operators will be a common thing that you'll use when making stuff in Blender. And Blender's built-in Boolean operators, they're a little clunky to use, in my opinion. So I prefer using the add-on called Bool Tool. And again, in the search, if you just type Bool, you'll see Bool Tool pop up. Click the checkbox next to it, and then you'll click Save User Settings. You can close that. Like I said, you might have to. Now for me, they came up, but I was talking to somebody the other day and telling them to add it, and the tools didn't come right up for them, so I told them to restart Blender, and they restarted Blender, and everything showed up. So now I'm going to show you where to find these things. So the 3D Print Toolbox will show up as a tab right over here on the left-hand side of the screen. And it allows you to, whatever object you have selected, like we have this starting cube, and of course it's going to be manifold, it's just a cube. But you can click Check All. I'm going to drag that a little bit. You can click Check All, and when you come down here, you can see the output for the 3D Print Toolbox. We have no non-manifold edges, no bad contiguous edges, yada, yada, yada. Overhang faces, I'll guarantee you, or the overhang face is just the bottom. So overhang faces are essentially, they're places where it either needs to be touching the build plate or you'll need supports. Good morning, David Olson. So yeah, the 3D Print Toolbox, that's what it does. It tells you. So let's make this non-manifold real quick. I'm just going to delete one of the faces. Delete face. Okay, so obviously a box with a hole in it is not going to be manifold. So check all. You can see now it has 4 non-manifold edges because it's missing a face. Now, it does have the option to make manifold, which will work on simple shapes where you click it and it just fixes it itself. But on more complex shapes with more complex errors, it will sometimes mess up the model. So I usually suggest going in and fixing the stuff by hand. Simple shape like this, you can just click Make Manifold and let it do it. You can always click Make Manifold and look at your model, and if it messes up your model, hit Control Z to undo it. Alright, so we have a box. There's 3D Print Toolbox, that's what it does. And now I can check again, now that I had it fix it, non-manifold edge back to 0. So we installed Measure It. I'll show you how Measure It works. Measure It, you click 2 points in edit mode. And you get back and forth between edit mode and object mode because you start in object mode. You get back and forth between edit mode and object mode just simply by hitting the tab key. So if you're in object mode and you want to be in edit mode, you have 2 choices. You can go down here and you can click edit mode, or you can just hit the tab key. Tab will take you back and forth. So in edit mode, the Measure It tool will allow you to measure between 2 points. So you see I have 2 points selected on our cube here. And the Measure It tool is under Display down here on tabs. So you go to the Display and you click the Segment key, or Segment button. The Segment button and then Show. And as you can see now, it's telling me we have a segment that's 2 meters wide. Now, say you want to change your measurement from meters into millimeters. I hit the N key. The N key brings up this other little toolbar here. It's by default it's hidden, but pressing N on your keyboard brings it up. You can scroll down to, okay, you scroll down here and you'll see the Measure It tool has its own little menu, sub-menu now. And under Unit, change that to millimeters. That's all you got to do. And this is the same place you go where if you decide you don't want, or you need to clear out your measurement, you can clear it out just by clicking the little X, and now it's gone. But we're going to measure it again. And you can pick a different color, so you can use multiple colors on different measurements, and you can keep them easily lined up over here. You can also use Measure It to measure angles and arcs and stuff as well. So Measure It I find to be a valuable tool. Oh, did I miss Matrix coming in? There he is. Yeah, morning Matrix. So yeah, we installed 3 add-ons, important add-ons. We installed 3D Print Toolbox. We installed Measure It and Bool Tool. Bool Tool, where you find it, is under the Tools tab. Under the Tools tab, and it shows up in Object Mode. Object Mode, you will see down here, Bool Tools. Now what Bool Tools does is you can use it to cut a shape out of an object or join 2 objects together, and you will use these operations fairly often. Let's create another cube. Slide them over here. Now, these 2 objects are overlapping each other. While we're still in object mode, we'll go to Tools. We'll go down to Bool Tools. We'll select both objects. Now, you see this one has a darker orange box around it. This is your selected object. The one with the bright yellow around it is your active object. So then you can change that by which order you select them in. The last one selected will be your active object. The first one selected will be your selected object. And Bool Tools will cause these two objects to interact with each other in different ways depending upon which tool you use. So difference will keep just the areas that don't overlap, which these that's kind of a mess on that one. This particular design. There's times you'll use that. Union should join the two objects, but I will warn you that anytime you do a Boolean operator, sometimes it creates artifacts, which it just did right there because of the way that they overlap. You know, that's why another reason to have 3D Print Toolbox. And anytime you're doing Boolean operators, I recommend that you save before you perform the Boolean operator, just in case it won't let you undo it. You can go back to your last save point, because sometimes it won't let you undo it. I'm going to hit Control Z and try to undo that, and it undid it just fine. And then intersect, it kind of slices the model where the two models overlap. So Bool Tools, you'll use them pretty often. We're going to take this, slide it up a little bit here. Difference there. Okay, so difference subtracts the selected object from the active object. Union merges the two objects, which I'm not getting errors now the way that I was because I don't have overlapping points. And then intersect keeps just the spot where they intersect. So yeah, difference subtracts it from the active object. Union merges the two objects together, and intersect keeps just the area where the two objects overlap each other. That's Bool Tools. That's it. And it makes it real simple. Because otherwise the built-in one in Blender is far more complicated to use. So that's Bool Tools. That's an add-on. It's a just takes a few seconds to add your add-on. So anybody who missed the point where we set up the user interface to left click and we added those, I'll have to go back and watch the first part of the video. Good morning, Matt Johnson. So now let's start back over. Let's go back to a new project. So now we've installed those 3 add-ons that I think are absolutely necessary. They are, essential to what I do, and I think they'll be essential for most of you and what you decide to do. So now let's get into some basics of modeling. So we got our new cube here. We clicked on it with the mouse to select it. We hit Tab to go into edit mode. Now, in edit mode, you have 3 options when manipulating an object. You can manipulate an object by its vertices, that's these little points here, the individual little points. You can, drag them around. And like if you grab just the red arrow here, you're grabbing and dragging it in the X. Just the green arrow and you're grabbing and moving it only in the Y. And just a blue arrow, you're grabbing and moving it only in the Z, an individual point. So, or you can select multiple points. Hold down your Shift key and select another point, and then you're moving those 2 points together. Or, 3 points, whatever you want to do. But you'll use this a lot sometimes instead of an extrude because you don't want to create another line in your mesh, another set of faces or whatever. Sometimes you just want to make it longer. You can just grab that. A quicker way to do that will be, I'll show you in a little bit. The A key, if you got stuff selected, you selected a point and you didn't mean to, or you're just done with the selection, if you hit the A key, it will deselect everything. Or if you have nothing selected and you hit the A key, it selects everything. So A to, if you have something selected, to unselect everything. If you have nothing selected, A will select everything. So your other options showed you how to move vertices. This is edge. So the lines in between those vertices are called edges. And they can be moved around the same way that we did with the vertices, but it's going to have a different effect because you're selecting that entire edge and moving it around. Or you can select faces, which is this button down here. So this was vertices, this was edges, see where my mouse is, and this is faces. Faces are the whole surface in between those vertices and edges. So when you select a face, you see how it's selected everything on that side of the cube. And you can move it around. So yeah, we're talking absolute Blender basics here. I mean, these are things that you have to be able to do to model. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. So let's see. Let's go on to the thing that everyone's everyone's favorite word: extruding. We're going to extrude. With 3D printing, we're talking about extruding plastic. Here, we're talking about extruding a face. Well, we can extrude more than faces. We're going to start with a face. Extrude, the hotkey for extrude is E. Easy to remember. You hit E to extrude. Now, by default, it will want to extrude along whichever direction the face is facing. So this one is facing the Y direction, so it's going to want to extrude only in the Y. You can also lock it into an axis by pressing whichever axis button corresponds on the keyboard. So if you wanted to lock something to the Y, you'd press Y and it will only extrude along the Y. You can extrude along the Z, which this would not be a good idea in this situation because it would create some horrible artifacts. Same thing with X, but you can choose to lock something to an axis when you are doing extrusion just by pressing, X, Y, or Z. This time we want to do Y. We're going to extrude a little bit. Now we extruded that, and that, as you can see, that created another set of faces and vertices and edges. There are hotkey lists you can find on Google. Just Google Blender hotkeys, and there are lists. They're not real easy to follow because they will give you all the hotkeys, a lot of which you'll never use, or at least I never use. Maybe you will in your application, but in most cases, there's a lot of hotkeys you'll never use. That's why I'm trying to cover the ones that I use repeatedly over and over. So back into face select mode. So yeah, extruding, you can do just pressing the E key, and like I said, it extrudes whatever direction that face is facing by default. Like we can take, see if I angle this back, then I go back into face select mode and I extrude, you notice now that it's rising up because that's the direction that face is going. It's going to want to extrude it straight out from itself. So the E key is to extrude. So you select a face, you hit E to extrude it, it will jut straight out from whatever direction that face is facing. Is everybody able to follow along so far? This was just playing with extrude. And you can extrude more than one face at a time if you select them. So like select a face, say I wanted to extrude both of these, holding down the shift key and selecting another one. Now when I extrude, it extrudes all the selected faces. So, you know, the E key will extrude whatever faces you have selected. Which another hotkey you'll like is for designing purposes. I prefer to keep it in ortho view, which ignores perspective. Because you can see like here at this angle here, if I have perspective on, we've got this. This is our view. Ortho view, it ignores perspective. It doesn't take into account the position of the camera and all that as far as how close it makes things look. There are reasons for both views, but to switch back and forth between ortho or perspective is just the 5 on your number pad. I prefer to keep mine in ortho when designing. So we've covered how to basically move things around. We've covered extruding, because we took that box and we just, you know, started randomly extruding some stuff, and that, you know, got this funky shape here. We've covered Bool Tools. We've covered the 3D Print Toolbox. So, like, say you're designing something fairly complex, you'll want to every once in a while go over to the 3D Print Toolbox over here. Click Check All. Scroll down and check that, and make sure that you don't have any non-manifold edges and things like that, because you'll want to fix them as you go. Otherwise, you could end up with a big mess at the end. All right, so say you have a non-manifold edge. Say you did a Boolean operator or something and it caused a weird artifact. Say it just didn't make a face. You can go into edge select mode. We see our hole here. Let's check it first. Check all. Non-manifold edges. You click that little button now for non-manifold edges. It'll show you where the non-manifold edges are. So we can see that and go, oh, okay, well, we want to fix that. So we see our hole here. You can select, you only need to select 2, but sometimes it's helpful to go ahead and select all the edges all the way around. Once you have the edges selected around the hole, you can hit, and as long as it's flat, you can hit F and it'll make a face. Makes a face and seals that up. Now if we go back over and we check all again, we fixed our non-manifold edge. Now another thing I use a lot is a ring cut. A ring cut, say we're looking at this piece here, and say we want to extrude out just half of this face. We don't want to extrude the whole thing. Well, we need to cut it first. So if you hit Control R, slide your mouse around to the pink line you see is where it will cut it. If you slide it back sideways, or we're getting that. If you slide it vertically, it'll show you that. And a ring cut will cut all the way around until it comes back to meet itself, when possible. if you have an edge that's no longer contiguous, then it will stop at that non-contiguous edge, which doesn't cause you a problem in 3D printing, but could cause you problems in modeling. Good morning, Minnesota Maker. So Control R is for a ring cut. Now, once you see your pink line on the direction you want it to be, if you wanted to, it will, by default, it will put it in the middle. It'll put one line in the middle, wherever it's at. To increase the number of cuts, you scroll your mouse wheel up. Now it's going to cut that into 3 equal parts. Scroll it up again, it's going to cut it into 4 equal parts. Scroll up again, 5 equal parts. And I mean, as many as you want. You can get crazy with it, but I don't suggest it. But in our case, what we talked about a minute ago, we just want to cut it in half. So hit Enter on that, which I already saw that I messed something up, so I'm going to undo it. I moved my mouse. I didn't want to move it. I wanted to cut right in the middle. So don't move your mouse. Hit Control R, move your mouse to get the pink line where you want it. Now get your hand off your mouse if you want to keep it in the center, because otherwise you will move it out of center. Because the first time you hit Enter, it creates the cut, but it doesn't lock the cut into place. See, the cut's not locked into place, so now if I move my mouse, it moves the cut spot it's going to cut up and down the model. I'm going to hit Escape to get back to the middle. Escape cancels your last movement. So Escape moved me back to the middle. I'm in the middle. I'm where I want to be. I'm going to hit Enter again. Now you can move your mouse. After you hit Enter the second time, it makes the ring cut. So the first time you hit Control R, you get your direction selected. The first time you hit Enter, makes it tells it that you want to make a cut. Then you can move your mouse to position the cut. But if you want it right in the center, don't move your mouse. The second time you hit Enter is when it actually locks that cut into place. I'm going to undo that. All right. So we made our cut. We're going to go into face select mode, and we said we wanted to move to extrude out just part of that. So we hit E for extrude again. We extruded a piece. Okay. We're not making anything in particular. I'm just showing you the basic procedures you will use over and over. So Control R for a ring cut. Say we wanted to move our mouse this time and we want to slide it out to there, and hit Enter again. Makes the ring cut. Now extrude will work on edges as well. Well, and points, vertices. You can hit extrude and on a edge, and it'll extrude just that edge out. And where that could come in handy, now when you extrude an edge, it moves more freely in space unless you constrain it to an axis by clicking, like I said, I want to constrain it to the X, then I would hit X. Okay, say we know we wanted that kind of profile on an object. We're going to go back and we're going to use the face creation again. So I want to create a face between these 2 points, or these two, not points, but edges. So I selected both edges by holding down the Shift key and selecting both. Hit F, and it makes a face. Now, you don't want, say we're going to close this in, you don't want faces inside your model. They will cause you problems. So we're going to close this in, but that would leave us with that face and that face inside the model. We don't want that. So we're going to delete those faces now before we move on. If you hold down the Alt key when you select an edge, it will select all the edges along that path until it comes back to itself again. So it'll like selecting that ring. That'll speed up your process a little bit. Alt key, select an edge, it'll select the whole thing there, F to make a face. Then we'll go over here and we'll check. We have some bad contiguous edges now. Okay. So it didn't like the way we did that. So we're going to delete. It's all a matter sometimes of checking as you go, and sometimes you'll have to make some changes while you're doing it. Sometimes you'll have to remake something that looks right on the screen, but it doesn't like it. So you just got to remake it because something you did along the process kind of broke the model. So I'm going to select those three edges, make a face, those three edges, hit F to make a face. I'll hold down the Alt key and hit F to select all that. F to make a face. Check all again. Now you can see we fixed our non-contiguous edges, and it looks the same. Those non-contiguous edges would have prevented us from making a ring cut through. They would have 3D printed fine. But in the modeling process with those, a ring cut would no longer have went all the way through. See, we did a ring cut lengthwise now. Good morning, Apocalypse Survivor. I'm just going over some Blender absolute basics. Like Ben Craig last night was talking about on Discord when I was talking to him about wanting to make a bevel. So say we wanted to bevel this edge. So I'm going to select everything along this edge. The Control B, holding down Control and hitting B, makes a bevel. Now a bevel, by default, it'll just want to bevel it like this with one point. So, you know, like you're making a 45-degree angle almost, you know, or well, whatever angle you make, but it'll only bevel it with that single point. But if you scroll your mouse wheel up, you see we're adding points to the bevel. So how smooth you want it, all you do is scroll your mouse wheel up while that's still active, and it increases the number of points along the bevel. So there you go. That's a bevel. It's easy. Control B. So we can, you know, bevel out another edge. We'll select that edge. Control B. Drag the mouse out to change the size of the bevel. Scroll the mouse wheel up while it's still active to increase the number of faces in the bevel. Click the mouse button when you're done. So you can see this is not, you know, hopefully, you know, not overwhelming stuff. This is you know, the absolute basics. Now, scale is another thing you will use fairly often. We're going to select a couple faces there. We're going to hit S to scale them. And just scale them down or scale them up. Just drag your mouse. Now, scaling can also be constrained to an axis. Say we only want to scale the X, you click the X key on that. You can't do anything there because it's not going in the X direction. The Y direction, okay, so we're only scaling the Y when we click Y. If we click Z, we're only scaling the Z. It's starting to look like some sort of deformed goose or something. I don't know. I'm not trying to make anything. Like I said, I'm not making anything. We're playing. Thanks, Apocalypse. Appreciate it, man. So yeah, we've extruded. We've showed you how to manipulate vertices. That's, again, vertices in vertex select mode down here. You have vertexes, edges, and faces. Vertices are the little points, these little dots. Edges are the lines between the dots. And faces are, they're just that, they're faces. They're the whole, like, square in this case. Now, you can also do insets on a face. So say you wanted to inset this face. You hit the I key for inset, and when you drag your mouse back and forth, you can see it's making a new face inside that face that's smaller than that face. So we're going to inset it a little bit. There, we've inset a face. Now, when you've done something like that, you can move that face, and you see how it brought that face out and it made that shape. Or you can do something like, undo that. You can hit the extrude key. You can extrude out, but extrusions can also go in. See? Yeah. Extrusions can also go in. So when you're just doing basic modeling, these are basic functions that everyone will have to use frequently. And so I suggest diving in and just playing around. You don't have to be making something to play around in a 3D modeling program. You can literally just sit there, and it will hone your skills to just play with the functions within the program and figure out what they do. Like, we're not making anything here. We're, this is a totally nonsensical shape. I'm just showing you the functions of the program, and in the process, this is what's kind of coming out of it, which is an ugly, weird thing. I don't know. And I'm sure I'm going to overlook some of the basic functions that I use during this, and we'll cover those in other streams. This stream is, it is what it is. We're getting you some of the things that you need to get started, that you will absolutely have to be able to use. A lot of it is just visualization. Say we wanted to cut a hole in, let's cut a hole in this right here. So we're going to hit tab to get back out of edit mode. We're back in object mode now. We hit tab. We're going to go back up to the create tab, and we're going to click on cylinder. And so Blender will bring in whatever you clicked on to create. It's going to bring it in wherever the 3D cursor is located. The 3D cursor is located in the center of our build area right now, so it just brought a cylinder in. And then before you click off of it on the add cylinder, you can adjust the number of vertices that the cylinder has, or decrease. And you can also manually type them in. Say we wanted to make it an octagon, we'll give if you give a cylinder only 8 sides, it's going to create an octagon shape. You can drag the radius from there. You can drag the radius up and down, or give it, a hard-coded number. Say you wanted to manually type it in and say we're going to 0.5. And a depth of 3. Okay, so now we got this hexagon shape. I'm going to hit tab to go into edit mode. We're going to slide it down. Now your number pad keys over here on the side of the keyboard. 5 takes you into perspective view. So you can see where perspective view and ortho view are dramatically different. We got the perspective view there, so it looks like we've got a, like we were in the real world. You've got perspective. You know, the stuff closer to the camera is bigger. Ortho view is unaffected by that. Like I said, most of the time I prefer to model in ortho view. Okay. Now, that's going to bring me to, before we do this, to the next key that I use all the time. That is the Z key. You press Z, takes you into wireframe view. So you can go back and forth between wireframe view and the normal view just by pressing Z. Okay, wireframe view. I want to rotate this cylinder that we created. And I want to rotate it. The 1 key will give you the side view, or front view. Yeah, front view, sorry. 1 key gives you front view. The 3 key gives you the right view. So I want to rotate it this way, so I'm going to go in the front view. I'm hit R to rotate. Now you can freehand rotate like just by dragging your mouse, or if you know the angle you want it, you can type it in on the numbers across the top above your keyboard. I can type in 90 degrees and it's going to rotate at 90 degrees. Or I can back that off and I can type in 45 and it rotate at 45 degrees. But I want to rotate at 90 degrees. Slide it up. Slide it over a little bit. All right. So now we're going to use Bool Tools again. We're going to cut a hole through this. So I'm going to tab out of edit mode back into object mode. I have my cylinder selected right now, but I don't have a second object for the Boolean operator to work its magic on. So now my second object that I select now becomes the active object, while this one is still selected. Does that make sense? The cylinder is selected. The funky shape here is active because it's the last one we clicked on. So now when we go over to Tools, Morning 3D Maker Kid, you oversleep? It's okay. It's all right. No judgment. When do you start back to school, man? My son started school yesterday. Well, he had a half day yesterday. Then they have no school today because it's a staff day. Whatever. And then his first full day of school is tomorrow. You go back on the 23rd. Man, you get a much longer vacation than he did. Or maybe you guys went longer. I don't know. Yeah, my son's first half day of school was yesterday. He's off today. His first full day is tomorrow. You got your first drone. Cool. Matt Johnson's kids start on the 28th. Oh, wow. Yeah. No, our summer breaks seem to be the shortest I've ever seen here. But they'll get a they get a spring break and a fall break. So I don't know. Maybe it all comes out in the wash that way. So anyhow, I'll go back to not having anything selected and show you again because we got off a little bird walk squirrel. So select the cylinder first, holding down the shift key, select the object. We're going to cut a hole in second. So now again, selected is the cylinder, active is the goofy object. I don't know what to call it other than that because it's just weird. We're gonna go to Tools, and we'll go down until we find Bool Tools. See, we got Bool Tools, and we want to do a difference because we wanted to cut a hole through, And you see that cut that hole out of our object. So just trying to again show you guys things that you will use all the time. So Bool Tools, you'll find a need for cutting holes in objects or joining two objects together. That's pretty much all I use it for. I mean, it has other functionality, but all I use it for is cutting a shape out of another shape or joining two shapes together. And anytime you do a Boolean operator, you'll want to go back over to your 3D Print Toolbox. Click Check All. Scroll down here. Okay, we have no non-manifold edges because, again, every time you do a Boolean operator, you have a chance to create some goofy artifacts because Boolean operators, sometimes whatever algorithm that they use within the program can tear the model in some way. So you guys know how to extrude now, you know how to ring cut, you know how to use Boolean operators, you know how to manipulate the individual points going in and out of edit mode, which we know how to inset faces. I'm trying to think what else I use on a regular basis. Like I said, I'm sure I'm going to overlook something because I'm not actually doing a design right now. I'm just goofing around. But like I said, open up the program and just do that. Just goof around a little bit. Just, you know, get you your cube. Because you saw we started with the starting cube. And we just grabbed it and we started extruding stuff. And you know, before you know it, you have goofy, crazy shapes. And in a future video, we'll get into doing some things like sculpting. After we make these shapes, we'll sculpt on them a little bit because Blender has that ability too, which is cool. So we're going to, let's move this whole object a little bit. Let's move it. Let's just move it out a little ways. Let's move it out here. Okay, so say we wanted to mirror it. That's something I use a lot. Okay, now it's going to get a little bit tricky here, but not terribly. Not terribly. You hold down the Shift key, Control, Alt, and C. So Shift, Control, Alt, C. You can set your origin. Now what your origin is, escape out of that. You see that little orange dot there where the vertices are, where it's showing you little arrows on the vertices, that little dot, that is your origin point. Your origin point is what Blender is considering to be the center of the object. The center of the object is what's used, like if you hit R to rotate, it rotates around its center point. Right? So say you were building something that was hinged. Well, I'll get that in a minute. I don't want to confuse you too quickly if I haven't already. Okay, so that little orange dot, that is your origin point. But you can manipulate your origin point. You can move it to different places because Blender will use that as your center point for the object. So like when you mirror, it will mirror the object from that center point. Does that make sense? So say we wanted to mirror this, but we don't want them like right on top of each other. So I slid it out from the center point. The 3D cursor is in the center point of the build area. So we can take, and if you accidentally right click somewhere and move your 3D cursor, which I do all the time, you can hit the N key. The N key will bring up this menu here, and just scroll down until you see the location for 3D cursor, location, and if you just type 0 into all these, it'll move the 3D cursor back to the origin point of the build area. So with the 3D cursor in the origin of the build area, we are going to, again, Shift, Control, Alt, C. Now, you have several choices here to where to set your origin, and each one has its own reasons you would want to do it. In this case, I want to mirror the object out from the center of my build area. So I want to create a mirrored duplicate, but I don't want them to touch each other. I want them to be far apart. And like, say I was designing a vehicle and I've designed a fender. I want to move that origin point to the 3D cursor, which I have in the dead center right now. I hit the N key to get rid of that toolbar. So see, that orange dot now for this object just moved to where the 3D cursor is. So now, if I go over here, we're going to go over here, we're going to play with modifiers for our first time today. You go over here and you find this little wrench. See the wrench? Click on that wrench. We're going to add a modifier. We're going to add a mirror modifier, which the modifiers, all of them do different things. These modifiers are, under each category, they're in alphabetical order, so it makes them quick to find. You're looking for mirror, so you'll go, oh, let's see, well, no, okay. Oh, it's under generate, alphabetically listed, under M, mirror. So as you can see, mirror created a duplicate of our object, spaced out from its origin point, which we just moved to the 3D cursor. And you can mirror along, like if you mirror along the y-axis, you're getting two things that are butted together like that. If you mirror along the z, it's top and bottom like that. But what we were wanting was the x. So you see the little check boxes over here. Nothing. X, Y, Z. And if you were creating two halves of an object, like I did when I did the truck cab, I only modeled one half of it. And then I mirrored it. And then you can merge it, merge the object. And its merge limit is here. So you slide that up or down a little bit, and what that causes is the center point where the two objects touch, it will cause them to fuse together at that point. Morning, red light. So we're not really designing anything in particular. We're just playing around in the program, and I suggest doing that to get your, get your skills up. Now, modifiers are non-destructive in Blender until they are applied. So you see this apply button here. Until I click that apply button, when I go back into edit mode, I'm only editing this part. I'm only editing this, but it's going to make changes. It's going to make changes on both. And because they're mirrored, they're moving towards each other. But now, once you apply that, if I grab that vertex and moved it, it's only going to move it on this one. It's not going to move it on both. Because once you apply the modifier is no longer a modifier. It's actually part of the model. And John Mack's not here. Everybody ignore John. No, I'm kidding. He's at work. He's working. But he's got us on, and appreciate that, man. Appreciate all you guys stopping by and hanging out with me today. So again, let's recap some of the things that we did. We beveled, which is Control B. And you can see a bevel. You slide your mouse out and it bevels it, which you can see that would be an ugly thing to do, is drag it past that. So a bevel, and if you scroll your mouse wheel up, it increases the faces in the bevel, which would make the bevel smoother. So yeah, Control B is bevel. We inset faces. It doesn't inset face. We extruded. E extrudes, and it extrudes along the path that it's facing. Whatever direction it's facing, it's going to want to go that way, unless you constrain it to a specific direction by making it go. Like if I hit the Z key, I can constrain it to only the Z, and it will move that shape straight up. Or I constrain it to the Y, and it's going to move that shape straight out. So Z, and extrudes can go in or out. So you can extrude a part in like that. We locked it on the Z-axis and extruded it in. We did a mirror modifier, and we didn't apply it yet, so everything we do to this side affects this side in a mirror. Once we apply it, we won't change this one if we are modifying this one. Let's see we did ring cuts. Ring cuts are fun. Control R for a ring cut. A ring cut by default cuts the center at the center one time. If you scroll your mouse wheel up, it'll cut into 3 equal parts. Scroll it up again, 4, etc., etc. I'm going to hit escape to get out of there. Good morning, 3D Printing Trucker. I got your email. This has been the first day off I've had since then. So I was going to reply to you today. I have not designed a truck like that, but I possibly could. I possibly could. I will have to sit down and look at that truck. We did a Boolean operator. We cut the hole through here. We installed and learned about the 3D printing toolbox. Check all. And just periodically, it's a good idea to do that. Click check all and come down here and check. We have overhang faces, but you know, again, I told you overhang faces are fine. That just means those are the places that either need to be touching the build plate or will have to have supports. So that could even help you identify in your design as you're doing it. You click on overhang faces here and say, okay, well those are going to have some supports or whatever. It just makes it easier to see. Good morning. Good morning, Robbie Mac. So yeah, we're not designing anything in particular. I'm just showing basic functions in Blender. Sorry, 3D printing trucker, if you're back now. I did get your email. This is the first day I've had off work since then. I work 6 days a week, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at the truck you asked me if I could model. I haven't had a chance to go look up pictures of it and see if it's something I could model. Yeah, Robbie's been around a while. I don't know. I think I may have beat you there, Robbie. I don't know. I was Walter's 26th subscriber. I remember when I found his channel and watched him build unbox his Mark III. That was how I found his channel. He was unboxing his Mark III. Morning, Ashley. Yeah, the first video of Walter's I watched when I subscribed was him receiving and unboxing his Mark III on camera. So yeah, we're just learning basics of Blender today. Let's see. So we did mirror modifier. We've done insets. We've done Bool Tools, bevels. Showed you how to manipulate vertices, edges, faces. Ring cuts, extrude. I'm just trying to go over in my head some of the basic functions that I use every day. And modifiers, like I said, are non-destructive, and they can you can stack multiple modifiers on top of each other. Hope that's not too confusing. I can take and add another modifier. Say we wanted to do a subdivision surface modifier. That's when things can kind of get crazy. A subdivision surface modifier will attempt to smooth the model, and you take up the iterations on it to smooth it more, which is more useful in organic modeling, which I don't do a lot of. But again, it's a non-destructive thing until it's applied. It can always be undone simply by, like, here's our subdivision surface modifier, and we go, no, heck no, we don't want to do that. You click the X, it's gone. It didn't destroy anything in your model. You just click the X, poof, gone. Same thing with mirror. If I want to get rid of it, X, it's gone. No more mirror. It's not too bad, Ashley. It really isn't. It's just I think a lot of times people that are showing you what it can do will show you stuff you're never going to use, or you will rarely use. So my goal today was to show you the things that I use all the time. So all the things that I've showed you are the techniques that I've used in modeling everything I've done, everything I've made and put on Thingiverse and whatnot. These are the same basic functions that I've used to create all those things. Walter, good morning, sir. Taking you a vape break? Oh no, that's all right, man. I'm just showing these guys the basics of Blender today, because I was talking last night on Discord, on your Discord at that, to Ben Craig and 3D Medic Vince and Ron from Canadian Maker Project. They were on last night when I got off work, and so I talked to them. I have about an hour drive home, and they said that all of them said they have Blender, but Blender was just too complicated for them, and that they couldn't get anywhere with it. And they've tried to watch tutorials, and many of the tutorials, talk over their head. And I was like, you know what? Maybe that's a good subject for the stream today. Blender basics. I'm just going to show you guys the functions that I use when I make my models that I use over and over again, and none of them are that complicated. They really aren't. It's just a matter of repetition. It's a matter of doing it. And so I've showed them extruding, beveling, manipulating individual points, the vertices, the edges, faces, that you can manipulate those. You can extrude faces and edges and vertices, that any of them can be extruded. Keeping things manifold, Boolean operators to join things or to cut things apart. Mirror modifiers. I think. Okay, are we back? OBS said we disconnected. OBS popped up and said disconnected, reconnecting. Are we back? I know there's a little delay. Hopefully we're back and functioning. No, that was weird. Yeah, OBS said we disconnected. I don't know why. Yeah, Walter, you looked different last night, man. I can't quite put my finger on it. There was something different about you. Oh yeah, you were quiet. No. You talked a lot less than usual. OBS is being stupid today. Later, Walter. Yeah, OBS is being stupid today. It keeps disconnecting for some reason. Hopefully that doesn't end our stream today. I don't know what's going on. I've never had it do that before. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's Fernando Pena. Good morning, Fernando. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but every once in a while it just says disconnected, attempting to reconnect, and then it says reconnected. So OBS is not playing nice with me. I don't know. Because was announcing him. Walter started it. But ever since Walter started it, I can't just let it go. When Fernando comes in the room, they're in the announcement like Michael Buffer. maybe Fernando can throw down. We don't know. You don't know what Fernando's got going on. I could throw down when I was young. Not now. Not now. I'm an old man now. I hurt myself. No, I took martial arts when I was a kid. I was in Taekwondo, the American Taekwondo Association. Went to tournaments and did all that stuff. But then I blew out my knee and I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't have the power in my legs that I used to. And then a few years ago, tore up my shoulder, had it rebuilt, and now my shoulder doesn't do the things it used to do anymore. That's why I see these, these athletes come back from like Tommy John surgeries and crap like that and get back to playing well. And I'm like, man, I don't know how they do it. Because I had this one little shoulder surgery. Well, I guess it wasn't a little shoulder surgery. I had a labrum tear, a slap tear on my labrum that went from here all the way around. And then my bicep tendon was tore 2/3 of the way through. And I could take this hand and push on my elbow and push my shoulder, push my arm out of its socket straight up. So I guess it wasn't a little tear. It's pretty sizable tear. But they rebuilt it. They put it back together. And now I better pray to God I never get arrested because I can't put this arm behind my back anymore. Or I'll have to beg them to cuff me in front. Because if I put this arm behind my back, it only takes a few seconds and it just starts an absolutely agonizing pain in my shoulder. It just don't work the way it used to. Which, I played baseball growing up, and I was a pitcher. And it sucks not being able to throw worth of crap anymore. Well, I hope, Joe, that it's been a good tutorial. I hope it's taught you guys the things that can get you started modeling. It's not what I've showed you today is not going to teach you everything, but it's going to teach you if you can do everything that I showed you how to do in this video today. If you can do all of those things, you can model, I'm going to say 90% of anything that comes up that you want to model by using these procedures: ring cuts, extruding, insets, bevels. That was my goal, was to show you guys the things that when I'm modeling, these are the things that 99% of what I do is what I've showed you today. And most of the other stuff that I've done that doesn't include these procedures, I've had to Google it myself. I've had to sit down and Google it, watch a YouTube video and figure it out. And there's some stuff, I'm sure that I'm forgetting to show you right now because it just hasn't come up. But that was the whole aim with this weekly or bi-weekly morning show for me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, is just sit down with you guys and we'll model something. I'll show you how easy it is. It's not an overwhelming process. It's not meant to be overwhelming. Maybe next video, this will give you guys a couple days to absorb this stuff. Maybe next video, I'll find a picture of something really basic. Find a picture of something really basic. We'll use it as a reference model, and we will make it. we'll model that thing, whatever it is that I find to do, and we'll use it. We'll use all the same basic approaches that we used here in creating it. And if we come across something that I haven't covered here, then we'll cover it. Because it's modeling more than anything is more than anything, it's being able to visualize. It's being able to visualize what you want to accomplish and how to accomplish it. Oh, you guys are welcome. Absolutely. No, that was the whole purpose of this channel for me, was you know, to share with you guys my adventure from the start. I mean, I first started touching Blender, what? I can probably tell you exactly when. Wait a second. I'm going to end up spilling the soda on my computer, and it's going to make me mad. It's going to happen. I can tell you exactly when I picked up Blender for the first time. January 18th of this year. January 18th of this year was the first time I touched it. I never used it before. And I know this because I know this because I'm a member of a yeah, I know I'm a nerd. I'm a member of a G.I. Joe collectors forum, and under fan art, when I sat down to learn Blender, I was sharing it with them because I did it with the intent to learn to model something. So on January 18th, I started modeling my first thing, and that was what I had modeled, was the front clip of a vehicle. I started building it, and you know, you can watch as it started coming together, and all the iterations and changes that were made as I did it, and all the things that I learned that I was doing wrong and fixed as I went. So the thing that's kind of cool for me when I go back and look at this now is I watched the iterative process and how I developed as a designer. So to show you guys, I started off, you know, not doing things great. You know, it took me a while. Hi, Joey. Yeesh, hi. What? What? Joey wants something. So yeah, I mean, it was a work in progress for me. It was, you know, I still need to go back and revisit some things on this model. Like, I haven't articulated the turret yet, or even got the turret to where it snaps in yet to the body of the Jeep. So, you know, it's a process. It is. Nothing worth doing comes easy or overnight. You want to say hi? Did you want to say hi to the people? Or are you just upset that I'm giving my attention to something other than you? Say hi to the people. Say hi. Say hi to the people. He's down there licking my knee. And he's still down there licking my knee. Stop it! I have shorts on. I don't like you licking my knee. Stop it. He gets jealous. He gets jealous. Daddy's giving his attention to something other than him, and he doesn't like it. Does he? So yeah, anything worth doing, it is going to take time. It's going to take effort. What are you doing, Joe? You stay away from that. I don't want you to decide to mark your territory over there. All right, 3D printing trucker. Nice to have you stopping by, man, and chat for the first time. And thank you for the subscription. Thank you for joining in on this crazy little 3D adventure. Yeah, we got this is scheduled to go for 2 hours, but we're an hour and a half in, and right now I'm struggling to think of something I haven't showed you guys yet. So I mean, we can kind of go back and recap. We can spend this last half hour kind of recapping some of these things. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's recap. So Tab key moves you in and out of edit mode, back and forth between edit and object mode. When you're in edit mode, you can modify or adjust things at the you can adjust them at the vertex level by vertex select, edge select mode, which selects the lines in between the vertices, or face select mode, which selects the big flat spaces in between the edges and vertices. Morning, Sholm. The E key to extrude, which we would want to do there because that would create overlapping face. So let's undo that. Yeah, so E to extrude, and it will extrude along the path that the face is already pointing towards, unless you constrain it. You can use the X, Y, and Z to constrain it to a vertex. You can inset a face using I, and you drag your mouse. Drag your mouse to increase or decrease the amount that you want to inset. Extrusions can go in. Let's see what else. Oh, ring cuts. Control R as a ring cut. A ring cut will, by default, want to go in the middle. But if you don't want it in the middle, you slide your mouse around and you can move it up or down. If you accidentally move it, if you hit the escape key, it'll move it back to the middle. Hit enter when you're done with the ring cut, and that's where you want it. Bevel. Bevel is Control B. You slide your mouse out, it increases the size of the bevel. You scroll your mouse wheel up, it increases the number of faces made in the bevel, so making it a smoother surface. We did mirror modifiers. We did which a mirror modifier again. You go over to the wrench, tab back out. You want to be in object mode for this. In object mode, hit the wrench, modifier, mirror. You can mirror along the Y, the Z, or the X. In this case, we're going to mirror along the X. The origin point is the little orange dot. We showed how to move that. You move that with Control-Alt-Shift-C to change your origin. You can set the origin to the geometry, which you can see that changed our mirror modifier. Control-Alt-Shift-C. or geometry to origin, origin to geometry, which did the same, origin to 3D cursor, which since we moved it, it's going to affect that now. Anyway, so modifiers are non-destructive. You click the X to get rid of a modifier, it's non-destructive. It just goes away. If you click apply, you can't undo it. Well, you can undo it immediately, but if you start doing other stuff on top of it, no, it's gone. It's yeah, something that I understand, Glenn, and I really appreciate you being here, man. Glenn, everybody, was my very first subscriber. My very first, when I created the, because I'd been stopping into everybody else's streams and stuff like that, and I finally got around to making my own channel for this 3D stuff. And Glenn was my very first subscriber. Something I wanted to show you. So when you're in edit mode, and let's go into vertex select mode. Say you wanted to select all of these points. Well, you can, go in and one by one, you can hold down the shift key and you can select them, right? Or you can hit B on your keyboard and just draw a box around them. Now sometimes you'll select stuff you didn't mean to, which then you hold down the shift key. Click it and select it. But yeah, so B will draw a box around stuff. So the Z key, like we talked about earlier, is wireframe view. So say we go into the wireframe view and we want to select all these. We hit B, drag and select over the top of it, and now you've selected all those vertices, and you can manipulate those. And if you do wireframe mode, when you select stuff, you will select stuff all the way through the model. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. You see this point right here? We're going to get in a position where we can't see it. But now I'm going to hit B, or hit Z to go into wireframe mode, and then I'm going to hit B to do a box select. And as you can see, we selected that point. So now, that same point, keep in mind, that point right there, we're not going to go into wireframe view. And we're going to do a box. Now we drew a box that would have captured that. It was big enough to have captured that. But because we weren't in wireframe mode, the box could not go through the model. So it could not select that point. So when you're in wireframe mode, it ignores any solid faces and allows selections to pass through the model, which you'll find a lot of times that is going to be helpful and necessary. But you'll also find times when you don't want it to select a face on the other side of the model. You want it to just select the surface that's facing you. And just like the B did to make a box, you can also hit C for a circle select, and then it's like you're just holding down your mouse key, and it's like painting. You're selecting vertices just by holding down your mouse button and mousing your circle over. And your scroll wheel will increase or decrease the size of that circle select. So, yeah, look, that's something I almost forgot to show you guys. Let me catch up on chat here. Robbie, that's so wrong, dude. No, just no. Show him, dude. No. No. You guys are going to get me in trouble. No. I'm not monetized or anything, but this is a family-friendly channel. I'm a father and a grandfather. I wouldn't want to make any videos that you know, that my grandson couldn't watch. And he's 4. So yeah, okay, I've showed beveling, I've showed extruding, I've showed inset, mirroring, I've showed you how to kind of get around the interface, which that's another thing. When you're seeing me click and drag and rotate like that, I guess I haven't covered that. That's the center mouse button. When you hold down the center mouse button, so if you got a mouse with a scroll wheel, you're clicking down on the scroll wheel and moving it around. Right clicking moves your 3D cursor, which you could have reason to do that. One said reason. Okay, we'll go. Again, your number pad keys. Change your views. Number pad key 1 is front ortho, 3 right ortho, 7 top. Well, actually, going back from ortho and perspective is a matter of hitting the 5 in the middle of the number pad. Okay, so say you were, the reason you cut a hole in this is a spot where this model is going to be hinged, right? And you want to test to see if your hinge point is good. So you could right click in the middle of that and move the 3D cursor there, right? And then we'll take Control-Alt-Shift-C and we'll move the origin to the 3D cursor. See how I put the origin dot in the middle of the 3D cursor? Now when we rotate, we click R to rotate, it'll rotate along that point. So you could see, visualize a little bit, and that's how I had to do to check the doors on stuff. When I would make a hinge for a door, I would move my origin point to the hinge, and then I would rotate the door open and closed so I could test it in 3D space and look at it and make sure they weren't going to hit the wheel wells and stuff like that. So but if you accidentally move your 3D cursor, you moved it over here and you want to get it back in the middle, again, you hit the N key, go down to 3D cursor, and just zero it out. Now the 3D cursor is back in the middle. Moving around the interface, your scroll wheel zooms you in and out. Clicking down on your scroll wheel rotates you around. Holding down Shift while clicking down your scroll wheel and dragging it just pans it around like that. Oh, and if there's ever anything you're looking for and you forget, don't know where to find it, so say we're back over here in edit mode and we wanted to put a bevel on, let's pick an easier surface to bevel. Say we wanted to bevel this edge right here and we can't remember what bevel is. We totally forgot. Hit the space bar. Hit the space bar and you see the search menu come up. You could type in bevel. And mesh bevel right there. Click on it and now you've got bevel. So yeah, at any point in time, if you forget how to do something, as long as you remember what it's called, you can hit the space bar and type in what you want to do. You want to extrude, which will give you more options than the basic just hitting E for extrude too, because as you can see, you can extrude and move on normals, extrude only vertices and move, extrude region and shrink, fatten, extrude on the edges. There are many different ways to extrude, The default way is just to hit the E key and extrude. But you can certainly do a lot more than that. But yeah, at any point in time, if there's something you're looking for, if you know what it's called, just hit the space bar and type it into the search. And it will guide you. Well, I hope so, Ashley. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. You know, I'm no expert. I'm not a professional designer. I'm certainly not a professional educator. I'm a professional musician. That's what I am. I'm a professional musician who dabbles in 3D stuff on the side. And but my aim is to show you guys that if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's not that hard. It's you guys right now are where I was at in January 18th. You guys are getting started. Now, some of you have had more experience than that, but the people who are beginning on this right now, that are beginning their journey today, you are where I was at January 18th. Now, I had a little bit of a head start because I had used 3D Studio Max before, which is a different 3D modeling program. But I'd wrapped my head around 3D modeling and how it works. So some of you guys, what you need to do is open the program and do what I just did right here. Don't sit down to design something. Just sit down to play. Whatever you come up with, awesome. Maybe you come up with something really neat and you decide you want to 3D print it just for grins. Yeah, and there's nothing to it but to do it. Sit down and play. Don't necessarily the first time you're trying to model. Maybe it's not a good idea for you to try to model something. Just sit down and model. Just sit down and play. Like I would totally 3D print this thing if I didn't think it was all goofy as hell. But I would totally 3D print this. And I may yet. I don't know. I know I'll probably just delete this. But this was our lesson today. We're just playing around. And so that's what that's my challenge for you guys. Just open the program, start extruding on the box, and ring cutting it, and beveling it, and insetting faces, and rotating, and scaling, and that sort of stuff. Well, I got my first printer thanks to Chris Riley. I guess I would have stumbled across my cheap ANET without him, but I wouldn't have had a printer as early as I did without Chris Riley. Chris Riley sent me the Tronxy X1, and he said that in his email, he's like, "It's not a good printer. It's not a good printer. I hate it, and I'll never use it. But if you want it," and I absolutely love it. I love it. I have no hate for the printer itself whatsoever. I have hate for its power cord right now because its power cord is kind of going bad, and I need to order a new one. Its little power brick is shooting craps. Yes, Chris Riley is of Chris's Basement is a phenomenal human being, and he makes great content. I could never probably aspire to make content as awesome as he does, and he does this. He makes amazing videos, and he's a superhuman being on top of it. Encoder overloaded. Consider turning down video settings and using faster encoding speed. Well, now at least I know maybe why we disconnected earlier. I had a little error pop up just telling me my video encoder is overloaded. Robbie Mack. No. Shame on you, Robbie. No. We're gonna leave that one hidden. We're gonna hide that. Keep it family friendly, Robbie. Keep it family friendly, man. Yeah, and you know the X1 has its challenges, that's for sure. And after Chris Riley modified his before he sent it to me, so he added a part cooling fan to it and things, and the part cooling fan makes it print pretty good, but it also took about 20 millimeters off of the X build volume. So a printer that was already small got smaller. That's why I want to get a big printer. I got my ANET A8 back there, but I need to turn it into an AM8 or something because I don't like it the way it is at all. I just hate it, and maybe I'll learn to love it when I put some more time and effort and work into it. But right now, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Yeah, and show them. I got to give you a big shout out on that, man. That was awesome. Um, Earl lost all of his stuff in a fire, and good on you, man, for taking care of him. And it's always nice when you're in a position to help somebody out, and you do. That's really cool, dude. Not everybody does that. You had low hopes for the X1. Yeah, I'm telling you, it does require some modifications. Now, Chris Riley added the support braces to it to make it more solid, and he added a part cooling fan, and it prints good. I mean, I printed that entire truck that I need to reprint now because my grandson destroyed it using the X1. But I want to get a bigger printer so that I can print stuff in one piece instead of printing the cab in 6 pieces and having to try to glue it all together. Got my eyes on the Anycubic Chiron because it looks like a bulletproof printer for the price and build volume. It doesn't look like it can be beat. Yeah. If you wanna post a link to Earl's channel, Sean, feel free to do so. I'm not even sure. I not even 100% sure I'm subscribed. I don't know what his channel is off the top of my head. I just heard about what you did for him, and that's awesome. Yeah, adulting stuff sucks, Robbie. This is my one day a week to not do too much adulting. I'm Tuesday's my day off, and we're gonna relax. That's what we're gonna kick back, relax after the stream today. So yeah, I think I gave you guys all of the absolute basics that you need to make something. So go out and like I said, my first suggestion is your first model shouldn't be trying to make something. It should just be making something that's totally nonsensical, but just it gives you the practice of extruding, of insetting faces, of beveling edges. Um, just play. Do what I did here today. This is a total nonsensical object. It, you know, but it gave me practice doing stuff. I mean, anybody who gets good at anything gets good at it because they practice. And practice doesn't have to be serious application. Practice can just be messing around. You watch baseball players on the sidelines and they're playing pepper, over on the in the foul territory areas before a game, and they're playing. You'll see them playing pepper. Well, they're doing that as just a game is fun, but it's improving a skill while they're doing. Well, modeling, it can be the same thing, you know. So just open it up and start extruding on something and playing around with it. But get your program installed, get your program set up. I showed you guys how to do that. Get it set up so that, like I said, left click instead of right click to do your selection. It's going to make a world of difference for you. I mean, I think, because most people are used to, when you use a program, you left click your mouse to select something. Blender, for some reason, by default, is the opposite of that. It right clicks to select something, and I hated that. And I didn't think I would ever get used to the program that way. Thankfully, I watched somebody else's tutorial video and they told me about the left click thing. So I changed it to left click, and from that moment I shot forward like a rocket. It you know, made a world of difference for me. And like I said, get 3D print, the 3D print toolbox installed. That's a must. That's a must if you're going to be designing for 3D printing, so that you can check to make sure your edges are all your edges are manifold, because otherwise it won't print. Boolean operators. Install Bool Tools. It's going to make it a lot easier for you than the Boolean operators built into Blender. The ones that Blender has by default are very clunky, hard to use. Install Bool Tools, and then it's just it's selecting two objects and clicking a button. There you go. Thank you, Sean. So yeah, Sean posted a link to Earl's channel. I will check and make sure after we get off here that I am subscribed to him as well. He lost everything in a fire, and Shulman and several others have sent him some stuff to get him back up and printing and going again, and that's very cool. And Measure It, that was the other tool that we installed, the add-on we installed. Not necessary, but necessary if you're going to be designing stuff to a specific scale. Like I'm designing, you know, I design all my stuff as 1/18 scale, like vehicles and stuff. And so I'm taking an approximate measurement of the real world object, dividing it by 18, and I want my truck to come out that length, etc. Because you want to say hi to the people again. You want to say hi. Yeah, one res. Thank you, Rover. I was drawing a blank on his username. One res. Well, stuff will have slicing errors if it's not manifold, because manifold means that your model is watertight. And if your model is not watertight, then 3D printing slicers will not necessarily slice it correctly and could cause you issues in printing. So you want oh yes, there's your daddy's baby. Yes, I'm his second favorite person. Say mommy is my favorite person, and daddy's okay with that. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, 3D Print Toolbox will make sure your models are manifold. Make sure you don't have overlapping edges. Remember, as you're building something, you don't want faces on the inside of your model. Try to keep that in mind as you're going. And sometimes if you're getting ready to close something off, oh, that's something I forgot to go over in the recap. Is creating a face. Again, we went over that, but let's just recap it one more time. So say you have a hole in your model, you deleted your face. There, okay. You have a hole in your model, you select the edges around the hole, hit F for face, makes face. And again, if you ever forget how to do something and you need to find it, as long as you remember what it's called, you can hit the space bar and you can just type it in. You know, bevel, like we did earlier. You type it, you hit space bar, type in what you're looking for, find it, click on it. You know, there you go. Yeah, space bar. Remember the space bar. Space bar will be your friend. We'll get into some of the more complicated, difficult stuff later, but if you can do all the things that I showed you today, you can model 90% of things out there. But like I said, your first model, don't even worry about modeling something. Just open it up and play. Play. In the repetition of using those skills, the extruding and ring cuts and adding faces and things, and you know, just the repetition of doing it will increase your skill level and get you more comfortable with the program, so that when you do have to sit down and model something, you'll know where to start. All right, guys. Well, it's 10 o'clock here. It's actually 10:02. I ran over my time a little bit. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. I hope you all learned something today. And if you didn't, go back and rewatch it. And hopefully the OBS cutting out thing didn't screw up the video. I guess we'll see. But thank you guys for stopping by. Appreciate it. Thank you for the thumbs up. And if you have not done so, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. There are links below to support the channel, but you know, that's not what I do this for. I do this because I want you guys to be able to make the stuff that you have in your head, the ideas that you have. I want you to be able to put them into the program, print them out, and then you can say you created something from start to finish. And if you've never done that, it's so much more rewarding than downloading a low poly Pokemon on Thingiverse and just printing it out. It really is. And it doesn't matter what it is, whatever it is that you designed, it's so much more rewarding printing something you designed. And then, you know, design stuff, put it on Thingiverse, and other people start printing it out. And I can't tell you how crazy it feels when you see somebody else printing out something you made. So yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping by, and we'll see you all Thursday morning. Yeah, join Mr. Mike Whaley tomorrow on his morning stream and fix something. Right, show them exactly. You see other people print your stuff. It's surreal, man. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time.